and a very warm welcome to Spectrum on Air. Now, in the studio this evening, we've got a very special guest, and she's got a lovely story to talk to us about. Please, may I introduce the lovely Lisa Wetton. Lisa, hello and welcome to the studio.
Well, hello there. It's very nice to meet you all.
Lisa, please tell us about the story you're going to share with us this evening.
I think most people know who John Wetton is, but if you don't, he is an amazing singer-songwriter, bass player who has a 50-year career playing with bands like King Crimson, Mogul Thrash, Family, Roxy Music, Uriah Heep, and last but not least, Asia. And so this seems to be the year of John Wetton. I've got a book that has come out, a tribute book of his life, as well as an amazing event that's going to happen at Trading Boundaries. It's a live stream event, and it's happening this Thursday, the 3rd of August.
So, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about this event on Thursday, and obviously about the book and who is involved in this project that is happening.
Well, I'll start with the book because the book was released about a month ago. It's called An Extraordinary Life, John Wetton, An Extraordinary Life. And the book was a brainstorm of Martin Darville, who is the CEO of QEDG Management. And after he produced an amazing John Wetton tribute concert in New Jersey in 2017, the year that John had passed away, he asked family and friends to contribute video tributes, which were then shown on the big screen during the concert. The same was done on a music cruise called Cruise to the Edge the following year. And the tributes were so poignant and revealed so much about the love everyone had for John that the idea of writing a book of tributes was really the next logical step. So after working out who would be interviewed, the best person to do the interviews was writer Nick Shilton, who has a long career, music writer career with classic rock and Prog magazine, as well as the publication Kerrang. He's a great music journalist, and he was a big Asia fan and a friend of John's, so we knew his interviews would be spot on. We didn't want to write a biography because that had already been done both with John as well as Asia. So it really wasn't written in the classic sense, but rather we wanted to have people closest to John who had worked with him and lived with him to give their perspective of knowing the man, and just, mainly to get a glimpse of who he really was, because most people know he struggled a lot with addiction and, had a lot of trials that he had to overcome. But we wanted to show people, just if you put your mind to anything, you can rise out of it victorious. And he definitely changed his trajectory with the help of a lot of musician friends and family. So we just thought it would be a much personal account of his life.
quite hard, isn't it, to get a lot of people together? But obviously, he crossed over so many boundaries within his career and obviously met a lot of people. And, in that time, that raw moment in time, it must have been very difficult for you as a family to hear all of these tributes and things maybe that you didn't know about at the time.
Yeah, well, when it was actually very cathartic for all of us to hear, just to read all the contributions from people who had known him for so long, even people from his childhood. I mean, we had so many people who wrote in saying they wanted to contribute, and it was just, because of the limitations of the book, we couldn't have as many people as we wanted to write contributions. So yeah, it was just amazing to know that so many people thought so highly of him, not just as a musician, but as a man.
Mm. I mean, it did it become a kind of snowball? So the idea sort of started and then it kind of snowballed, and all of these people contributed.
Yeah, actually, we decided that I would start writing. I actually have a blog now called Caught in the Crossfire. It's on the johnwettonlegacy.com page, where I actually kind of took an extension from the book and started interviewing even more people so that they can tell their story as well. So I do that every couple of weeks. I've taken a week or two off this month because of the event that we're going to be holding next week, but it'll go back to its normal release time after that.
I've actually ordered the book, Lisa, and it's on its way to me, I believe. I got a message this morning. So tell me about some things that
Really?
are in the book that our listeners can hope to enjoy, and maybe it will help the person who's reading the book because of some of the journeys that John's been on. Are there any particular highlights that you would like to talk about?
Well, I mean, there are so many anecdotes from so many people who knew him during the times where he struggled. And some of them are just really a revelation. For example, Annie Haslam, who is the lead singer for Renaissance. You probably heard the group Renaissance.
Hmm.
She was the woman who actually literally saved John's life during the end of his life with alcoholism. She got him into a rehab facility, and he stayed there until he was sober enough to come out of it and be healthy again. So, and then he just, he followed through with a 12-step program. But you would never have known that. I didn't know that until I saw it in the book. So
Gosh.
there's just so many, a lot of the book is funny and really great anecdotes, but some of it's very difficult to read. And that's what I like about the book. It portrays John as a real human being with struggles like everybody. We can all relate to some of his struggles, and just how anybody can change their trajectory by getting help. And the amazing thing about John was he always was candid with just the regular guy. If he knew that they needed help, he had no problem at all discussing his own personal struggles. If he knew it was going to help somebody else, he was just extraordinary in that way.
He touched many people's lives then, didn't he, throughout his life,
He did,
which was
yes.
quite short, really, wasn't it? By the time that he passed, he was still quite young.
Well, yeah, he was. I only knew John for about 4 years at the end of his life. And the first year was really just touring with Asia and with UK. I went on tour with him with both of those tours. And then in 2015, he was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. And of course, that just changed everything for us. And we basically just focused on his treatment and quality of life and just trying to live as normal a life as possible. We did all the things that everybody, does. We went to restaurants and we'd go out to London to see an opera or a classical music performance, go to the art shows. He was a very well-read man, and he loved just doing all kinds of things to live life to the fullest. And
so, how did you meet him then, Lisa?
well, I met him on, I spoke about Cruise to the Edge earlier on. It's a prog rock festival on a ship. And I happened to get to go the year that he was performing with UK on the cruise. And it's a kind of a strange story because I had been introduced to John's music through King Crimson, through my father when I was extremely young. And it didn't occur to me that John Wetton was the guy, the John Wetton from Asia was the same guy in King Crimson, 30 years before. And I went on this cruise, and the night before we had set sail, the friend who invited me on the cruise happened to have the new Asia album at the time. It was called Gravitas. And on it was a bonus video of his performance with the Plovdiv Opera Orchestra. And I watched the video, and something just came over me, and I couldn't stop looking at him. And my friend who's gay and who was with me, he's like, "Oh, honey, you can do much better than that. He's way too old for you." And I kept saying, "My God, there's just something about him." And so, of course, the next day on the cruise, he was on the cruise, and I finally got to see him perform. And I don't know, something clicked in me, and I absolutely knew I had to meet him.
Yeah.
And we met. I met him at a photo session, actually, and the next thing I knew, he was emailing me. A few days later, after the cruise, he messaged me through Facebook. We just started talking, and the next thing I knew, I was meeting him in New York City for a cup of coffee. So, and I lived in upstate New York, so he literally had to fly me down there. It was just one of those things, but
you were meant to meet, weren't you?
I think so. Yeah.
Your worlds were meant to collide at that moment in time. Now, obviously, from you were robbed of such a lot of time, weren't you? Ahead of you. But I guess probably in the time that you had together, you packed as much as you possibly could in, even knowing that you'd got that diagnosis. That must have been terribly hard.
Yeah, it was very hard. But of course, John was just one of these people who never complained about anything, and was just, he'd always say every day, he'd just say, "Let's get on with it." And we would just, we'd do the chemotherapy sessions, and I'd care for him. And and on the good days, we would pack it all in. We would meet with friends. We'd go to restaurants. Like I said, he was a big football fan, and so was I. We had our own favorite teams, and there was always lighthearted banter on our game days. So we would constantly be watching football. And yeah, it was, it's really not how long you know a person, but the quality of time you spend with that person. And
Absolutely.
I think we really, he was happy and at peace at the very end. And because he was, so was I. I could have always, say, "Woe is me," I didn't get much time with him, but I really learned a lot from him just about living life. And yeah, I'm glad we had the 4 years that we did together.
Cast your shadow over me as wind cuts It's littered and it's torn. The wear and tear, from dusk till dawn, waiting on an empty street, hiding from the sun. And in one place or another, all my memories still remain. You've been taken from my eyes, but you're running through my veins. You've been taken from my eyes, but you're running through my This treasure can be anyone's, to believe in only one. It's not a foolish thing. There's no comparison, waiting on an empty street, hiding from the sun. And in one place or another, all my memories still remain. You've been taken from my eyes, but you're running through my veins. You've been taken from my eyes, but you're running through my veins. You've been taken from my eyes, but you're running through my
Well, I read somewhere that he liked fast cars, fine food, and football. So, which was his favorite out of those three, or were all three his favorite?
Well, I would have to say football first, fine food second, and yes, he did like to drive car. He loved to drive his Porsches very fast. I didn't enjoy it one bit, but he did. He was very much into his cars. So, but you know, football and fine food. He did enjoy life to the fullest. Like I said, I only knew him for a short period of time, but you know, he was a rock star in the truest sense of the word throughout the 70s and 80s. He was in the top rock bands, and he went to all excesses with, as you did back then, in the rock business. Asia became the darlings of the first MTV generation. So, you know, they were just superstars back then. But he was also just an incredibly regular guy and would prefer to, you know, have a chat with his plumber than to go to huge award ceremonies. He was just that kind of a person. Yeah, it was hard, but it was packed full.
You find that a lot, don't you, about very gifted and talented singer-songwriters that, that they're not interested in the awards and the accolades. It's the music that matters. And he liked a whole genre of music, didn't he? What was his favorite? Was there a particular favorite?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he loved all genres of music, and you can hear that if we all know about the big bands that he was in over the 50-year career, but he gets credit on so many, literally hundreds of credits on different types of musical genres, different bands, different folk bands, even. But his all-time favorite, and really where he came from, he comes from a classical music background. He grew up with church music because his brother Robert was an organist and actually studied church music. And John would always play the bass parts, the bass pedal parts with his brother. So he definitely, you can hear a lot of that counterpoint and harmonization in his music. And the most amazing thing is that Jeff Downes came from a very similar background. And, it's no wonder all of their biggest hits sort of have that counterpoint sound where, the bass or the harmony will weave into the melody line. Just amazing. John's, I would think that John, he would always say that he was a singer, or I mean, a songwriter before he was a singer and a bass player. And he loved that sort of genre, really, most of all. He said that music was two-dimensional for him until he heard the Beatles and the Beach Boys for the first time. And even since that time, he was inspired by singers like Joni Mitchell and James Taylor. There's a funny story that his old pal Peter Viney says that after they attended a Jackson Browne concert and seeing all the women in the audience, he turned to Peter and he said something. Can I swear, by the way?
Yeah, of course. Well, we can bleep it out.
No, he said, bastard, he's got 70% women here, and here I am, a singer-songwriter, banging stuff out to a load of hairy blokes. and really, that's just how he was. I mean, he, ultimately the song that he wanted to write was going to be the big singer-songwriter type hit, because that's really what he loved the most. And he, even to the day he died, he was constantly amazed by some of the music coming out from younger bands and younger singers. And so he always had his sort of the pulse, his ear to the pulse of the newer genres of music.
So did he kind of like songs that had a storyline behind them, so that yes. He liked somebody telling a story, really? And in today's manufactured pop that we have at the moment, there's not much of that, is there? It's lacking, I think, in 2023, that storytelling in songs.
Yeah, I'm not very good at following newer music, but I know that he'd be very surprised at times and he'd actually find a great singer-songwriter, young person like Ed Sheeran, for example, was a great songwriter. And there are a lot of new music there's a lot of new music that's out there that really is starting to prove its worth in songwriting. And I think John was just so pleased to hear, he'd always put it on his Twitter page when he'd find a new singer-songwriter who was, 3 generations after him. And he just loved being able to help them and support them in any way that he could.
It was tough. It's tough, and it is a tough industry to be in, isn't it? You have to be kind of resilient. And, I think often a lot of creative people, they are flawed because they are so creative, and you can't have that creativity without having the sensitivity. And the sensitivity in itself sometimes creates problems, doesn't it? So turning to Thursday and this event, it's a private event, I understand, but it's also, you can buy a ticket to watch the stream. can you tell us a little bit more about that, Lisa? Who is attending? What is the concert going to be? What is it?
Sure. So the event is called An Extraordinary Life, celebrating the music of John Wetton. It was originally started out as a small charity show after a phone conversation I had with Paul Green, who runs the amazing Paul Green Rock Academy. That used to be called the School of Rock. You may have heard of the School of Rock. It was a movie based on Paul Green's life. Jack Black played Paul Green in the movie. So Paul Green has this group of kids between the ages of 11 and 18, and they are absolutely brilliant musicians. He trains them. They all, they have a curriculum that they have to follow in the music school. And then they go on tour with celebrity, legendary artists. And John Wetton went out on tour with them 2 different times in his career in the 2000s. Anyway, Paul Green is a huge King Crimson and John Wetton fan, and his group of teenagers are on tour right now with John Anderson of Yes, and they're in Europe. And he contacted me a few months ago, and he asked, if there was a possibility that I could book them for, one of the some show in the future, at one of the local venues. And when we talked in May, I thought that it would be a great idea to have this sort of John Wetton tribute that we did in New Jersey back in 2017. We could do it again. And I knew eventually it would happen on this side of the pond. So as soon as the word got out, it was only going to be this small fundraiser with the 2 or 3 guest performers. And when the word got out, I mean, it literally just snowballed into something that was much, much bigger. And we're all just really excited because we're up to about 20 guest artists, all legends in their own right.
Gosh.
Jacko Jasek and Mel Collins and David Cross, all from King Crimson. We've got Roger Chapman, the lead singer of Family, Phil Manzanera of Roxy Music, Martin Orford, who was in a band called IQ, and John Mitchell and Martin, who were both in the John Wetton band. We've got several members of Yes coming, in Asia, Jeff Downs, Annie from Renaissance, who I mentioned earlier. Did you guys know that John was actually a member of Renaissance? He toured with them in 1971. I mean, you name a band, he's probably got a credit on the record or on a tour. We've got, I can continue on. Jim Cregan of Rod Stewart's guitar. He was the guitar player for Rod Stewart. Dave Kilminster from Roger Waters tours. Chris Difford from Squeeze. Steve Hackett from Genesis. Guy Pratt, who was in Pink Floyd. Rick Wakeman from Yes. It goes on and on and on.
So there are some names within here that we might not know about, but they were in those very successful bands, which is kind of, he must be smiling up there going, yeah, they're good.
Well, yeah, in some ways, I think he certainly would have appreciated the fact that everyone's coming together on his behalf to celebrate all this great music. But given that he lived a more humble life, I think he would probably, and he was a huge Cockney slang fan, and I think he would have said, and I gotta say it, he would have said, for f***'s sake, all this Barney rubble. He just would have, he would have just been, why in the hell are you guys doing this for me? He just was that kind of a guy, but he definitely would have appreciated, and he would have been so pleased to see that much love in the room. I mean, this event is going to be historic. To have all of these people sharing the same stage is unprecedented. Plus, we've got a huge, mind-blowing surprise for everybody that I can't mention.
Oh, that's going to get us all going, isn't it? So on Thursday, if there's anybody listening and they want to buy a virtual ticket, how do they do that? Where do they go?
So they go to, let me think I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Trading Boundaries. Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up.
Okay. Ping it to us and we will make sure that we've got that.
Yeah, I think it's oh, you know what it is? It's tradingboundaries.com/concert.
Okay.
And either that or just go to the Trading Boundaries website and it should come up for the 3rd of August under their what's happening.
Okay. Or we can go to the johnwetton.com website, can't we? Because I guess there's details on there as well.
Yeah, that's called johnwettonlegacy.com.
Okay. So if anybody wants to know about the concert, wants to buy the virtual tickets, they can do. And proceeds are going to a charity, Lisa, aren't they? So just tell our listeners what charity and why you've chosen this charity.
Yeah, so the charity is Macmillan Caring Locally, and it's a charity that funds the palliative care and hospice units at Christchurch Hospital, where John spent the last days of his life. They've been raising money for several years to rebuild the hospital, to have more beds, because as you know, as we age in life, we're going to see a lot more of these palliative care units. And right now they're under a lot of stress because there are so many people who need end of life care. So that is a specialist unit that cares for sick people and their families at the end of their life. And they were just so amazing, the staff and the volunteers. When John went in, he went in 3 days before he passed away, and they made us all feel right at home and comfortable during a very difficult and sad time, of course. But the most amazing thing is one of their goals is to build a memorial room named the John Wetton Suite.
Oh, how lovely.
And so we're all really pushing to have that happen.
Yeah.
They still have a long way to go, but every bit counts. And for only £30, you're getting a 5-hour concert event in the privacy of your own home. You could pour a glass of wine and just hang out and watch it on the big screen. And it's just an amazing, and the cool thing is it's also available for the entire weekend. So if you can't be available on the night of the show, which is Thursday, it will be accessible to you. Just buy a ticket and you can watch it anytime and as many times as you want for the whole weekend.
What time does it kick off on Thursday, Lisa?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to obviously we're going to put all the links up on the website for you so that we can make sure as many people as possible know how to do it. And from your point of view, Lisa, what memories are you going to take from your life with John? What is the most poignant thing for you, and what does this concert mean for you?
I think that like everybody, we all want to live to our best lives. And I think truly John was an extraordinary life. And I think he just made it very clear, carpe diem, seize the day. Every moment counts. Don't put off anything in your lifetime. And you can, even the tough stuff, you can take away from it a learning lesson. So I'm just hoping that we all, and everybody who buys a ticket, will see the love that this man had in the room at Trading Boundaries. So does that make sense?
It's an incredible life, isn't it? To leave that mark, that legacy with people you leave behind, It's something very special and something that we shouldn't take for granted, but it's something that we should all, aim to do is make sure that we leave something behind us that people can live with hope. And the music industry in itself is rife with different problems that beset all musicians and all artists, but he was living proof that he lived it to the full.
Absolutely. We're so humbled and proud of his legacy, and it's all about leaving whatever legacy you have. It doesn't, of course, none of us are musicians. Not everybody is a musician, but we all have a special gift to leave. And I think it's important to just always, even during the toughest times, just smile it off and do whatever you have to do to live your best life and make a difference.
I mean, it's not a long time since John has gone, Lisa, is it? It's quite a short time, really, for somebody with such a large life. How is life for you? How do you, what do you do going forward now? And obviously the concert is going to give you some great comfort, but what's in the future for you too?
Well, I've had a career for many years as a session drummer. I do a lot of mainly work through progressive rock, but I also do some Latin percussion. So I just enjoy playing drums, and I also have a meditation practice. So I go to see my sangha, and yeah, just tend to the garden. John was always proud of the gardens, so I've got to keep those up, or
Hang on a minute.
give me holy hell.
You said to me earlier that you were a journalist. How did a journalist get into drumming?
Well, I was more than a journalist in my life. I had a journalism background. I only photographed and wrote for a very short time with a Canadian newspaper, and that was back in the 80s. I've done a lot of different things in my life, but most of all, whatever I do, I just make sure that I do no harm, and I keep a minimal carbon footprint, because that's the most important thing right now.
Well, you are one remarkable lady to have this journey, and we are delighted here at Spectrum On Air to be able to share your story and share the journey, and we wish you every success for Thursday and for the book. I've ordered my copy of the book, and I'm going to be reading that because I think it's going to be an absolute delight to read it through. So we spoke earlier, Lisa, about John's favorite songs or music. Did you manage to think about what songs he might have liked to be to hear at this event?
Well, there's a lot of different songs.
I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
Well, I did have a list that I wanted to talk to you about, because there's just so many. I mean, I could be here all night talking about all the songs that he was so proud of. One song I really enjoy myself is Steffi's Ring. That was always a real favorite of his.
Of silver and gold entwined in an old lover's knot, and with the tenets she strives to uphold, never tries to be something she's not. Of silk and velour, a shade of deepest vermilion, which folds off a haven for rich and for poor, regardless of creed or opinion. Oh, Steffi's ring.
At the same time, he also had a very gorgeous, lush pieces that he co-wrote with Jeff Downes. And one of those was To Catch a Thief, which was on they had a collaboration group called Icon, and it was on I think it was on their second Icon album. and it was co-sung with Anneke van Giersbergen. She's a Dutch singer, and she's just absolutely amazing. And the chemistry between the two when they're singing the song, it just gives chills.
Wow.
My mask concealed no treachery. Your heart was on your sleeve. I removed your veil of innocence with no intention to deceive. I took what's built on promises, and all that I held dear. You were the one who stole my heart when it was yours for free. And then your life was torn apart.
Lisa, I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for joining us this evening and talking to us so much about John's life. And thank you so much for sharing such intimate details as well about this event. I wish you lots of success. Just one last reminder, please, if you don't mind telling us where our listeners can go and find tickets for the event, and also how they can go and order or pre-order the book that's due very soon.
Well, thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure being here talking to you. They can go on, in order to get tickets, you can go to tradingboundaries.com /concert. And to order the book, you can go to www.johnwettonbook.com. If that doesn't take you to the book, you can also go to Rocket 88 Books. It's ROCKET, the number 88.com.
And John's website that you've set up, Lisa, that gives a lot of information about both events, doesn't it? The book and the event that you've got coming up.
Yes, it does. And that you can go to johnwettonlegacy.com.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I wish you lots of success. I hope you raise lots of money for Christchurch. I know that, lots of hospices need as much money. The pandemic really kind of hit them hard, didn't it? So I hope it's a successful event for you. I am sure it's going to be, and I'm sure they're going to be eternally grateful. And I'm looking forward. Please do share us a copy of some pictures of the room when it's eventually done.
Oh, yes, will do. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Take care, Lisa. Bye-bye now.
Street, got to hoot and stamp the feet in the heat from your physique as you twinkle by in moccasin sneakers. And I thought my heart would break when you doubled up the steak with your fingers all a shake. You could never tell a winner from a snake. With your figure and your face strutting out at every race, throw a glass around the place, show the color of your crimson suspenders. We could take the money home, sit around the family phone, my old dog could chew his bone. For 2 weeks we could appease the Almighty. Easy money. Poor admirers in the streets got to hoot and stamp their feet in the heat from your physique as you twinkle by and mock us and sneakers.